Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I am attira.kell and today we are going to be talking about the Vanguard series of ships. Now the Vanguard was my second major purchase after buying a Star Citizen game package, so I can honestly say it is dear to my heart. So I thought I'd throw something together to address the ongoing changes and what I personally would like to see. So let's get to it. Now recently, CIG has finally addressed the fact that the Vanguard has had a
troubled
past and needs some work. But before we talk about the changes I would like to see, let's talk about what CIG has said is already in the works. In the December 2018 video, The Shape of Ships, John Crew went over the current interior changes planned for the Vanguard series. The first and most defining change is that CIG is unifying the Vanguard series of ships to all look like the hoplite. This will effectively widen the crew area of the ship and replace the current ramp with the hoplite's ramp. They're also going to provide a bulkhead with a double door to seal the crew sections of the Warden, Sentinel, and Harbinger variants from the rear ramp. This increase to the interior of the ship allows them to do a couple of things. First, they'll be introducing some additional weapons lockers and possibly some other standard of living changes, which will support the upcoming physicalized inventories that we've heard so much about. It will also allow them to adjust the location of the turret so that when getting in, players aren't blocked from entering the forward cockpit area. So that's been a pretty consistent issue. And then also, they're going to significantly reduce the size of our luxurious frosted glass bathroom. So that'll open up some additional space as well. The next big thing they're working on is adding in the Vanguard's physicalized size 2 components. And these internal reworks are definitely going to help with that. John Crew did speak to this and the challenges it presents, so we can potentially expect to see some limited size growth in the Vanguard to accommodate these components. These size 2 components will also come with some slick animations to allow the player to access and repair them. The only rub here is that because they are size 2 components, they can't be removed and replaced by the players, though they are looking at some type of mini tractor beam that might help. So all of these changes are pretty okay with me. Though the hoplite is a little less sleek in the rear than the other Vanguard variants, this change doesn't bother me at all. My only comment on these initial changes is that I would like to see them animate a 2-man lift animation so that the Vanguard crew can change out S2 components manually, or they definitely need to sort out that tractor beam to pull and replace components. I say this for one reason really. Early in my career, I was an armor officer, so just about every piece of a tank is heavy and there are plenty of 2- and 3-man lifts involved in maintaining a tank. So there's no real reason why we as a crew should not be able to manage larger components to a certain extent. The final thing I'll say on what we know so far is that in the Shape of Ships video, John discussed bucks and how they're changing. Essentially, ship skins and internal EW packages or torpedo bays will all be provided to the backer as individual items that can be mounted individually. I would like to throw in my 2 cents on this particular aspect of the Vanguard though. CIG, please bring the bucks back. In whatever form you settle on for how these items will appear in an account, bring them back for sale to the community again. I know for one, I would like to buy both the Harbinger and the Sentinel bucks. Alright, now that we've reviewed what they have worked on so far, let's talk about what I'd personally like to see with regard to the changes to this ship. I'll start first with the ship's flight model, and specifically flight characteristics when one of the nacelles have been destroyed. What I would like to see in this realm is an adjustment of the thrusters at low and medium speeds to enable the Vanguard to fly, get this, in a straight line. So, if you've flown the Warden in a dogfight, you'll know that if you lose a single nacelle, you basically fly in a diagonal line. Now, during moments of high rate acceleration, I'm okay with this. Your main engines are far more powerful than the maneuvering thrusters, but at slower rates of acceleration, it would be nice if the ship's thrusters could account for the imbalanced thrust. This would really help in setting the ship down on a pad for repairs, and I personally think it's not too unrealistic of an expectation. So I'll stress to those who might throw hate, I only think the ship should be able to account for imbalanced thrust at slower speeds, i.e. not combat. Or slower rates of acceleration, i.e. it should be able to limp home with a single engine. To balance this, if the thruster wear is accelerated, I'm 100% okay with that, because the thrusters might really be struggling to keep the ship moving in a straight line. The next topic I'll hit is the retractable turret that was originally designed for the Vanguard. Now, I think that all those planned moving parts are pretty cool, but here's the thing. For a military ship, unnecessarily complex movements are bad for business and represent just another thing that can go wrong. So ultimately, I'm not really for all of this. Now, If the argument is that the ship can't get into a carrier, i.e. the Bengal, Idris, Pegasus, etc., and they're designed to fit in those ships, then maybe we need all of those retractable and moving parts. But I do think that there needs to be a legitimate reason behind the moving parts, not just to have moving parts because it looks cool. Now finally, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the weapons loadout. To my knowledge, the Vanguard is the only ship in Star Citizen with a permanent, non-adjustable weapons loadout. Stock, it comes with 4 S2 MVSA laser cannons, which cannot be exchanged for other weapons. 1 S4 gimbaled Revenant ballistic Gatling, which can be exchanged, and the turret is equipped with 2 S2 Sawbucks, which can be exchanged for other weapons. And I believe for the 3.4 patch, these were changed out for a repeater. For missiles, it has 4 S2 Ignite 2s and 4 S2 Dominator EM missiles, so 8 total size 2 missiles on the forward racks, and 4 total S3 Arrestor 3s on the rear racks for a total of 4 S3 missiles. I mean, that sounds like a lot, doesn't it? 5 guns controlled by the pilot, 2 guns controlled by a gunner, and 12 total missiles. The RSI site even says that it sports extensive forward-mounted weaponry. But somehow, the ship just feels underpowered in the guns department. So why is that? In a recent discussion about the Idris K's laser weapon, which will sit on the Idris M's railgun hardpoint, it was stated that less maneuverable ships benefit from a higher rate of fire weapon. I think most would agree that for a fighter, the Vanguard is the least maneuverable of the lot. Taking into account that the MVSA laser cannon is perhaps the slowest firing laser cannon in the game, it really seems to go against CIG's thought process on high rate of fire weapons benefiting low maneuverability ships. Now, you can agree or disagree with this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. But here is where I will lay out some possible courses of action to fix the weapons loadout problem of the Vanguard. So, COA number 1. I'm old, so I'm going to reach back to the original Star Wars X-Wing video game for this solution. In that game, you could adjust the fire mode of your weapons on your starfighter, something that Star Citizen has built into its turrets but not allowed our pilots to do with the main weapons. So I propose that we be allowed to do the same thing with the Vanguard's forward perma weapons. To better explain this, my course action 1 would allow the pilot to fire all 4 forward S2s at once at the slowest rate of fire, or fire 2 of the forward S2s at an increased rate of fire, alternating, or fire a single S2 cannon at an even faster rate of fire, rotating through each weapon, which would make it look a lot like an S2 minigun. As an example, if all 4 weapons fired every second, then a dual cannon mode, alternating 2 cannons, would fire every half second, and in a single fire mode, a weapon would fire every quarter of a second. Now, you can see how this would drastically increase the overall rate of fire for the Vanguard, and honestly, they could implement this on all ships. Alright, moving on to course action number 2. Allow us, please CIG, to change out the nose weapons of the Vanguard. The Vanguard is the only ship currently in the game with a permanent, non-adjustable loadout, and honestly, I think this is the most preferred solution by the community of Vanguard owners. We've already mentioned that there's a plan to rework the exterior slightly based on the planned changes to the interior. Now is the time to adjust the nose to allow us to change that loadout. This could be accomplished by simply adding weapons ports that house size 2 hardpoints. Alright, so my last suggested fix is a little extreme, and I'll call it Course of Action 2 Alpha. In the current loadout, we have 2 forward missile hardpoints on the interior of the Vanguard's main engines. These are S4 hardpoints. CIG could transition these to be unique hardpoints, allowing us to mount either fixed S3 or gimbaled S2 cannons, repeaters, or whatever, or opt to retain the stock S4 mounted missile racks. Yes, that would be a unique setup for the ship, but I'm sure CIG could figure out how to make it happen if they really like the idea. And it would help to get after the description, which is extensive forward mounted weaponry, which we've already talked about, the Vanguard really doesn't possess. Now, hear me out on my justification. When the Vanguard enters the fray, other ships should be concerned for their lives. It is a heavy fighter. less mobility and maneuverability for increased firepower and survivability. Right now, that's really not the case. It certainly is less maneuverable than other fighters, but the firepower is lacking. There really isn't anything drawing people to the Vanguard other than its aesthetic, which is arguably one of the best in the game. This change would allow an exceptional level of customization for the ship and would really help to make it competitive again as a fighter. So that's it. Thanks for sticking around to the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give me a like, and if you want to see more gameplay videos of Star Citizen and other games, hit subscribe. Also, if you have any thoughts on how to adjust or tweak the Vanguard, sound off in the comments down below. And finally, if you're looking for a Star Citizen organization, come check out a.m.m.o. Our Discord link is in the description down below.